Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is a very important one, but a very unusual one. I recommend you really watch it. Topic: UFOs in the Bible. Yeah, but we're going to go more, we're going to beyond what is in the Bible. Now, first of all, let me just say that I have done several programs on Serge Monast. I actually heard him on a radio program before he was killed, in my opinion. And this, you may be saying, okay, so why do we need to know about UFOs? I would say the biggest single reason is because of what Serge Monast revealed. And I'm not covering in that today, perhaps another one in the future. But essentially, he reported that he uncovered what is called NASA's secret Project Bluebeam, where they have a plan where they would use satellites. Now, you have to understand this was 35 years ago. He said this, when there was not all the satellites up in the sky like there is now, where they would use satellites to create an image in the sky. That image might be that Jesus is returning, or that an image says that this guy down here is the Antichrist, or that there's a bunch of UFOs. I mean, if you want to bring a deception to the world, that would be the best way. But I'm not talking about that today, perhaps another day. Instead, what I'm talking about is UFOs in the Bible. So we're going to skip this. A couple of new articles just came out. So this Burchett representative said that the public has a right to know about UFOs. Based upon the information I know, I don't think, and I used to disagree with this. I've changed my attitude. I used to think that everybody ought to be able to know. It is so scary. Most people really can't handle it. And I'm not covering the really scary stuff today. I'm just covering basics, but just basics is enough to raise your hair. Next article, this country would become unglued. That's true. Says Tim Burchett comments on recent alien claims that amidst related scientists are missing or dead. In other words, there's more than one person that is missing or died very mysteriously all over the UFO topic. And I'm not getting into that today either. So, part of the article said, there are people among us that are not entirely human. Now, wait a minute. I'm going to show you that straight out of the Bible. If you don't believe that, you don't believe the Bible. He says, yes, aliens are already here. Sad to say, he's correct. Unfortunately, it just keeps getting covered up, and the people that know are either dying or disappearing. Yeah, there's a few things you don't leak, and the truth about the UFOs is one of them. A few of us are going to have to get with the president and tell him what he needs to ask and where he needs to look. Why? Because even President Trump, according to this article, operates on a need-to-know basis, and he doesn't need to know. And you may be saying, I want to know. You might not. It's so scary, and parts of it are so unbelievable. I don't know if I will ever talk about that. It's that scary. So the article goes on to say, this Eric guy says, who's also on the UAP committee, says a lot of these videos that they keep classified have been captured technology, and we don't want our adversaries to know that we have the ability to capture them. In other words, the cameras themselves are highly classified. Because of that, we don't want to really, okay, there's a lot of secrets. A lot of secrets. They can't let people know. First of all, they wouldn't believe it. And then as they got the information where they believe it, I do think a lot of them would kill themselves. I think people would be jumping off buildings. They would be putting a gun to their head. They can't accept the truth. So we're just covering the baby steps, but what I'm about to show you, even in the Bible, is still pretty scary. So let's go to the beginning. Let's go to the Bible. We can count on the Bible. Okay, so what does the Bible say about it? Okay, let's go back to the beginning. Genesis 1. So it says, the sons of God came down and mated with the daughters of men. And the daughters of men had children by these fallen angels. Okay. Look, there's let me keep it real simple. There's three groups of people. There's Lucifer and his buddies, all of the fallen angels. The second group are those people that are the offspring of them mating with men, as in part man, part demon. Just put it that way. And the third group of people is us. That's real simple. It's more complicated than that, but I'm keeping it real simple. So the sons of God came in to the daughters of men. They bare children. Now, this is important. They became mighty men. What does mighty mean? I think it's talking about giants. Mighty men, which men are of old, and that word in the Hebrew for old means eternal, meaning the death gene that Adam inherited when Adam and Eve ate of the fruit did not pass down through the gene pool into these, and the hybrids, we'll call them hybrids, keep it simple, or Nephilim, were not dying. Now, I can show you in scriptures what happened as a result of that. So you can read all of this if you want to, but let me just get to the point. Verse 12, yellow. All flesh had corrupted its way. Corrupted is not necessarily talking about a sin. I think that what happened was when the sons of God, here it is, mated with the daughters of men, their offspring, the DNA of Adam was now changed. They were no longer made in the image of God. And as a result, all of those that did not have the image of God is not going to get into eternity. So, since they realize they're not going to be saved, they can't live forever, ever, not in the eternal world with Jesus. So then it goes on to say, yes, there was violence, yes, there was sin. But that's the second reason. The first reason God sent the flood was because the gene pool had been corrupted. In other words, everybody on the earth except Noah and his sons and daughters, all of that lineage, were corrupted. Now, how do you know? Here, let me back up. Okay, look at these. Verse 6, Genesis 6:9. These are the generations of Noah. Why do I mention generations? It's saying his genetic code, his DNA, was not messed up. That's the reason Noah and his family got chosen, because God was removing the corrupted DNA from the earth. I'd like to say it stopped there, but it doesn't. It gets a lot worse. All right, let's go on. Then we jump to David and Goliath, and I don't need to tell you the whole story. But the point is, it was a giant. 6 cubits in a span high, that's about 9, almost 10 foot high. And built like an Arnold Schwarzenegger when he was young. And it says here, the weight of his helmet was 125 pounds. And imagine that, okay? That's big. His spear was the weight of a weaver's beam. And according to Ron Wyatt, that's a picture of what he found in the cave, which he believed to be Goliath's sword. Now, you can't tell whether that's this long or huge, but Ron carved a replica of this, and this is him and his wife, Mary Nell, holding that wooden replica to let you know this is some kind of a honking sword, meaning Goliath was a big monster. Now let's jump to the next example. You don't have to read all of this. Okay, so the 12 people that were sent to spy out the land came back with a report. Remember, those are the guys that had the big cluster of grapes on a stick between the two of them. So they had a good report, but they also had a bad report. So the good report said, yep, it's a really nice land, got a whole lots of stuff. It is a land flowing with milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it, and showed them the big grape cluster. But then they said, but we're not able to go up against the people that are stronger than us, and they brought an evil report of the land. Well, wait a minute. God took them out of Egypt to specifically take them into this land flowing with milk and honey. By the way, we think the milk is natural gas and the honey is a yellow-colored crude oil. But they didn't believe God. They didn't believe that God was able to remove all these giants, so they came back with a bad report. As a result, they had to wander in the desert for 40 years until most of that whole generation was gone. He goes on to give the really bad report, which is God takes this as an insult. What, you don't like my gift? Don't you think that I'm able to remove the people and give that land to you just like I said I would? So there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which came from the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers. Giants. So they were afraid of the giants. Well, in the natural, that's a pretty good reason to be afraid of them. If they're 10, 12. When Leslie and I went in 1991 with Ron Wyatt to see Noah's Ark and all, he took us also over to what he believed was Noah's wife's grave. And we stretched out a measuring tape. As I recall, it was 12 foot tall, even though it was still mostly all caved in, assuming that that was his wife's grave. Okay, so Noah's wife was probably 12 foot. How tall was Noah? 15, 18 foot, something like that. In other words, pre-flood people were a lot bigger and a lot stronger, and until Adam and Eve ate of the fruit, they weren't going to die. Okay, now let's go on. So then, in another place, the people were great and many and tall as the Anakims, or giants. Another place, they encountered a land of giants. I've got lots. I'm not going to be able to cover all of this, so I'm moving quickly. A people great, many, and tall. I'm just showing you a lot of places in the Bible say that, yes, there are giants. Then, of course, Og, the king of Bashan, remained with the remnant of the giants. His bedstead was 9 cubits in length and 4 cubits wide. It is the land of giants. You can pause and read all of that if you want to. Sons of the giant, the weight of whose spear weighed 300 shekels of brass in weight. He was the son of the giant, man of great stature, that had on every hand 6 fingers and 6 toes. Okay, in other words, they were big. Which, by the way, my belief is the reason we have wisdom tooth is because we're supposed to keep growing, and those wisdom teeth come down at the right time because we grow so big we need them. And the other thing, I think the reason that as we get older we have not gray hair, but wrinkles, is because we're supposed to get bigger, and those wrinkles would not appear if our skull was, say, 20 or 30% bigger. See what I'm saying? So it says, these 4 were born to the giant of Gath. You can stop, pause, and read it if you want to. Here's the point. You remember Jesus said, as in the days of Noah, so also shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Meaning, that thing which was is that thing which shall be. There's nothing new under the sun. The whole earth repeats. Meaning, so the sons of God came down, made of the daughters of men. Is that happening again now? Well, wait a minute. Let me show you. Now let's jump to Revelation 10. So this is the mighty angel come down from heaven. And it says, and the 7 thunders had uttered their voices. I was about to write, and I heard a voice from heaven to say to me, seal up those things which the 7 thunders uttered, and write them not. That's one of the big mysteries. What are the 7 thunders? I believe I can tell you what the 7 thunders uttered. So I put this out on the internet. I told them I think it's saying release the giants. We've got a couple of other people that are saying release the giants. I got this email. There's a copy of it. And this lady says, yeah, well, the Lord told me back in 2018, they said release the giants. Well, here's another one. I've got, 4 or 5 different people all say the 7 thunders said release the giants. Here's another one from you. Be ready. Revelation 10:3. He cried with a loud voice as when a lion roareth. This is the 7 thunders, but we've read that, so I'll skip on to the point in what's this? It's a vision, yeah. While in prayer, a vision opened to me of an ordinary neighborhood. I found myself standing in the neighborhood with people standing outside, staring at the sky. They were looking at something unusual, exciting, jumping loudly, exclaiming, pointing upward. I looked up and I saw the blue sky suddenly come alive with colorful auroras, streaking, moving wildly across the sky. It was breathtaking and beautiful. So was this part of a Project Bluebeam? While observing, I suddenly heard a very loud voice that at the same time sounded like great thundering. I heard it shout from the heavens saying, unbind the giants, or release the giants. I heard this loud thundering sound shout again and again, "Unbind the giants! Unbind the giants!" I looked around at the people, and I was surprised to see that no one else had heard the voice, like I had heard. It appeared that they only heard the loud thundering sound, but not the voice. After a time of thundering and all they were looking at the sky, it suddenly began to turn dark while still day. This darkness, however, was a very different type of darkness. Not normal darkness of the night. This was thick, tangible darkness that could be felt. That's like it was in the days of Moses. Could be felt all around you like a substance. It was thick, like you could cut it. You couldn't see your hand in front of you, but suddenly I was somehow given ability to see through the darkness, like a light came on just for me to see. In front of me was a 6-foot tall man, and I watched him change and morph into a 30-foot tall being. His eyes were black. His physique was of a giant bodybuilder, and he was yelling, bellowing out loud grunting and growling sounds. I heard more loud cries and sounds in response to this one in charge, and saw 3 more in the neighborhood. They were all male. Their clothes, when 6 foot tall, had torn and fallen off when they grew, and now only covered around their waist and hips. I understood this event that as I was witnessing was the 3 days of darkness that has been spoken of. During this darkness, I heard people scream, cry out in pain and terror. See, the plagues of Moses' day repeat in the last days. We're not surprised at that, are we? During this darkness, I heard people scream and cry out in pain and terror. And later was silence. After the 3 days had passed and darkness dissipated, I saw the damage and destruction. It looked like a tornado had passed through, houses torn apart, roofs gone, cars crushed, trees uprooted, thrown about, streetlights broken off, lying in the streets, some houses and properties destroyed, and others not much damage at all. I saw dead bodies lying around, arms, legs gone from torsos, people torn in half, some even half-eaten. People tried to shoot the giants with guns, but they couldn't see in the darkness, so they could only shoot in the direction as the giant came upon them with their houses. Their skin was tough and thick, and bullets had little to no effect, causing injury. I'm going to read you something else from another person that's almost exactly the same. In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let a thing be established. The giants killed at will, roaming through town, leaving path of destruction and death. I was not shown what happened to the giants or where they went after darkness dissipated. I was shown in this one city, but knew as I think I'm going to let you finish reading that. I've got so much to cover. You can finish reading this. It's more about it, more of the details, but it's still talking about unbind the giants. There we go. Now, let me jump to the next one. Scripture. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains shall they leap. This is the end-time army. This is Satan and all of his angels and all of his physical flesh armies coming down to attack Israel. Their face shall be much pained. All faces shall gather blackness. I think that's because the sun goes hot, 7 times hotter, Isaiah 30, verse 26. And then there's something that comes out of the sun, and it just turns all skin on earth black. They shall run like mighty men. Isn't that what Genesis 6 said? Yeah, that's right, okay? They shall climb the wall like men of war. They shall march every one in his ways, and they shall not break their ranks. Meaning, this great end-time army of, I'll call them super soldiers or hybrids, do as they are told. Neither one shall thrust another, shall walk every one in his paths, and when they fall upon a sword, they shall not be wounded. Now, either they fall on the sword and they have some kind of a coating where the sword won't go in them, or the sword goes in them, they simply pull it out and they're instantly healed. My vote is on number 2. I think they have instant healing. A lot of that is from these med beds, which I'm going to tell you right now, do not get in. The Lord told me they change your DNA, and anything that's not in the image of God does not get into eternity, so you lose your salvation. Now, when are these giants released? I'm going to give you my best guess. So this is Joel 2. This is Armageddon. Blow the trumpet in Zion. Sound the alarm in my holy mountain. That's Mount Moriah. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh, for it is nigh at hand. A day of darkness, of gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness. That's the day Jesus returns. People strong, there's never been the like, super soldiers. neither shall anyone be after it, even to the years of many generations. The land before them is the Garden of Eden, behind them it's a desolate wilderness. The appearance was as appearance of horses. Okay, I know what a horse is. And as horsemen. Now, wait a minute. Is that a horse with a man on it? Or is that a half man, half horse? Remember, Jesus says, as in the days of Noah, so also shall the coming of the Son of Man be, meaning they're going to be playing with the DNA strand. They're going to be mixing humans with non-humans. So this is my best guess. Over to the right, if you look at the red unhappy face, one possibility for the giants to appear would be middle tribulation. I think that's unlikely. Probably down at the bottom right in the green area, that's probably when it happens about 3 days before Jesus returns, which is also about the time of the seventh trumpet. Depends on how you want to stack that all together. Here's another way of looking at it, but I'm going to keep moving. Still got lots to cover. Bet Stevens, back in 21. I was asleep and taken out of my body, this place underneath the earth, and I saw computers. Then I felt a hand on my shoulder, and a voice close behind me said, "Watch, take note. It is to your advantage to know the truth. Take a closer look." I could zoom in and out, and I saw a black box with many knobs and controls. The voice spoke again. It will be a commanding device for giants. He called them Nephilim. I saw cots and tables on wheels with the bodies under the covers. They were wheeled across the room. Robots were escorted in and out and put on tables. They were making robots, high advanced technology robots. Same thing Jason Meeks saw. I saw men in white coats looking at the black box turning knobs. Heard a shrill whistle. This would not be heard by regular human ears, but since I was out of my body in a vision, I could hear it. I saw giants appear on the screen. They looked human, yet their stance, their fierceness, their evil power radiated just by looking at the screen. It was not a regular human power. It was beyond human. It was beyond human reasonable expectations. I saw enough to know that they're perfecting, are you listening? Perfecting giants down there in Antarctica. The black machine moved quite slowly. All of a sudden, the screen went blank, and the Lord said, "You've been given this vision to share precisely as you've heard and seen it. You are to give this precisely, with no big explanations, just as you were shown. Why? It's coming, just like the Bible said." The Lord continued, "Please pay attention. Now I will show you the seven thunders." At that moment I heard such crashing about of thunderbolts, lightning all around through the whole place, massive crashing of thunder and lightning. I heard these words from the thunder and lightning. It was a mixture of thunder and voices saying, "Release the giants upon the earth." Jump to another article. Horrible giant defeated in the name of Jesus. He and his best friend Chase were out at our chicken coop closing for the night. Suddenly a giant came out of the woods, menacing, wearing animal skin for clothing, with dirty long hair and a beard. He beat on the metal roof of a chicken coop and then stomped out with their fire and hit my friend on the head and knocked him out. Reed bravely jumped onto the giant, but was instantly flung off onto the ground. He got up and ran in terror back to our house to get help. Reed grabbed the semi-automatic rifle and an extra clip. Then he ran back outside to the chicken coop and found the giant was dragging Chase into the woods to kill him. Reed emptied a clip into the giant. Changed clips did the same thing, but nothing stopped him. The giant acted like he didn't even get shot. So Reed turned the rifle around and began beating him with the butt of the rifle. The giant let go of Chase's leg, but only to strike Reed with the back of his hand slap, sent him flying back several feet. He got up, shouted in a loud voice, "The blood of Jesus is against you. In his name, I command you to let him go." Suddenly, the giant dropped Chase and began to some strange, loud, groaning sounds, deep in voice, dropped to the ground and appeared to be dead. Mouth of two, three witnesses. There's more. Lance Woods. Soldiers were coming through the neighborhood. Many homes had already been vacated for a long time. The soldiers were rounding up people that remained. Those who didn't get on the truck without incident or tried to run were simply shot, killed immediately, bodies left where they fell. I woke up screaming in bullhorns, and I looked out my window and saw the soldiers hitting one home at a time. I woke my 17-year-old daughter and her friend. We snuck out of the house, being quiet, staying downwind as the soldiers had super hearing, super smell, and could see in the dark. Did you hear that? See in the dark without night vision. No reasoning, emotion, or empathy. They were programmed. What was Beth shown just then? They were programmed and followed their orders, just like the Bible says. Many people shot the soldiers, but to no effect. They healed instantly. Remember, fall on the sword and not be wounded? Instantly, right before our eyes. The only way to kill them was a headshot with a high-caliber rifle. We could not talk or make any noise while we made our way down to the embankment to the river. We wanted to get in the water to help mask our smell. I slipped down the embankment making noise and cut my shin. I remember the sound of the leaves crackling and the smell of the dirt as I slid down the embankment. The girls looked at me in fear, knowing a soldier heard the noise. They quickly slid into the water. I froze, hiding behind a tree as one soldier came listening and sniffing, investigating the noise. He was about 6.5 or 7 foot tall, with muscles like a weightlifter, and covered in a metallic battle armor, overlapping like an armadillo. His eyes were red, and his face had a beastly humanoid appearance. He scanned the area. I was ready to shoot to protect my daughter, but I knew that the shot would draw the other soldiers and I would be dead. But my hope was my daughter would live and get away. The soldier turned and walked away. Now, I think that the rapture happens before this. That's my opinion. But again, if you get my book, Secret Door to Understand, not this book, Secret Door to Understand Bible Prophecy, and also this one, Pentecost Rapture of the Bride, if you get the book, you'll understand how all of this lays out. It's very important for you to understand the last days, not just for soul winning, yes, for soul winning, but also for your own survival and for your families. It's very, very important that you get informed. And if you haven't already, say, Jesus be my God. Just 4 words. Jesus be my God. Say it. Jesus be my God. 4 more words. Jesus forgive my sins. Jesus forgive my sins. 4 words. Jesus be my God. Jesus forgive my sins. If you have a 401k, an IRA, if you have some money in a pile in a bank or someplace, I think you're risky. I think you're in financial danger. And that's the reason I recommend you call 800-200-GOLD and just say, hey, here's my situation. What do you recommend? Also, if you're thinking about getting crypto, we'll send you to prophecyclubcrypto.com. And I want to talk about my new books. I got to thinking the other day, God has really blessed me, i.e. you, because he's shown us 2 of the greatest questions in all of Bible prophecy. The first big question is he has shown me the secret door. That is 1 word, the word of first fruits, and that, put in correct order, sets all of the prophecies of the book of Revelation in the correct order. Now think about that. For some 2,000 years, how many Christians have wanted to know how you stick the prophecies of Revelation together? Because they're not in chronological order. And if you read it, you say, what? Where's that go? So this book puts the prophecies in order. Now, don't order one for $20. Instead, you get a shrink-wrap set of 5 of them for $35. Secret door, and the back has all of the charts, updated charts. Then, this one is the latest one. This answers the biggest question the church on the globe wants to know, and that is, what is the timing of the rapture? Is it pre? Is it mid? Is it pre-wrath? Is it post? When is the rapture? Well, it all has to match with the feasts, and God showed me the answer to the rapture. Here's what people say. They read this book, they hear me talk about it, and they say, of course. Of course. It has to be this way. It couldn't be any other way. It has to be this way. And a peace comes over them because they finally found the answer. How many times have we heard prophecy experts tell you when the rapture is, especially they're trying to convince you it's pre-trib? Well, it doesn't make a difference, because when the Holy Spirit tells you the truth, there's a peace here. If you want that peace, here's your book. Now, the way this works is, don't get 1 for $20. Get a shrink-wrap set of 10 of them for $35. But even better deal, you get a shrink wrap set of these and a shrink wrap set of these, 15 books for a gift of only $50. prophecyclub.com. I think it's a great deal. And here's the thing, like the voice told me, when these prophecies that gave your wife, which are in both books, begin to come to pass, people from all directions will begin to turn and listen to your ministry. You've shown me a vision and a dream of me speaking and organizing meetings in sports stadiums. We are going to sports stadiums. And if you want to be a part of that, if you want to be a part of what God is doing in the last days, then spend $50. Spend it. Spend it, okay? It's worth the risk, okay? Spend it, get the offer, read the books. You know, we sold 15,000 of these books. Not one complaint. Not one email came in saying, you're off your rocker, you got a hole in the head. None. And I guess it's going to be the same way with this one too. Because, I don't know, God picked me to show this stuff. I don't think I'm anything special. I think you're special. I think you're part of what He's putting together, an end-time church working the sevenfold miracle.